Your attic, right now, on a summer afternoon, is somewhere between 130 and 160 degrees Fahrenheit. That is not an exaggeration. That is what building science researchers have measured repeatedly in standard American attic spaces during summer months. And that enormous pocket of superheated air is sitting directly above your ceiling, radiating heat downward into your living space and forcing your air conditioner to run almost continuously just to keep up. You are paying every month to fight a problem that the Amish solved 200 years ago for about $4. Today, we're going to fix that. Welcome back to In the Beginning, where we get honest about what modern building and living practices have cost us, and we go back to the methods that actually worked before we got talked into depending on systems that bill us monthly. I want you to picture something before we start. A traditional Amish farmhouse. No air conditioning, no powered ventilation. Sitting in the middle of a July afternoon in Pennsylvania or Ohio, the same blistering heat the rest of us are suffering through, and inside that house it's cool. Not refrigerator cold, but genuinely comfortable. Windows open, a breeze moving through. The family at the table eating dinner without sweating through their shirts. That's not luck. That's not magic. That's physics, deliberately applied through design choices that our modern building industry has spent the last 70 years helping us forget. And before I dive into the specific techniques, I want to recommend something that ties perfectly into everything we cover on this channel, Ted Riley's Prepare Your Home for a Sudden Grid Down Situation. If the idea of cooling your home without electricity interests you, and it should, this guide is the companion piece to today's video. Link is in the description. Now, let's talk about why your attic is your enemy and how to turn it back into an ally. Ted Riley's Prepare Your Home for a Sudden Grid Down Situation. Here's what happened to the American attic over the past century. Originally, in 19th century construction and earlier, the attic was a deliberately designed heat buffer. It was ventilated open and built to let hot air rise and escape through the roof without ever penetrating down into the living space. It was a thermal sacrificial zone, meant to absorb summer heat and release it before it became your problem. Then two things happened. First, insulation became the dominant solution. Builders started filling attic floors with thick insulation and sealing the space tightly to prevent heat loss in winter. Good for winter, catastrophic for summer. Now, instead of venting heat out, they'd created a sealed oven directly above the ceiling. Second, HVAC became standard. Once every home had central air conditioning, there was no financial incentive for builders to design for passive cooling. Why engineer airflow when you can just install a bigger compressor? The most striking and most effective of the traditional Amish cooling methods is the cupola, that small wooden tower you see sitting at the peak of barns and farmhouses across Amish country. Most people think cupolas are decorative. They are emphatically not. A cupola is a functional ventilation device engineered around the stack effect, the same physics principle that makes a chimney draw smoke upward. Hot air rises. If you give it a vertical pathway to escape, it will move upward and out, pulling cooler air in from below to replace it. Research conducted in 1943, published in agricultural engineering literature, documented temperature drops of 14 to 19 degrees Fahrenheit in structures fitted with properly designed cupolas compared to identical structures without them. On a 95-degree day, that's the difference between misery and comfort. A basic functional cupola can be built from scrap lumber for just a few dollars. It doesn't need to be elaborate. It needs to be positioned correctly at the roof peak, vented on at least 2 opposing sides, and tall enough to extend above the roof line's thermal boundary. The Amish built these with hand tools in an afternoon. This one sounds almost too simple, and that's exactly why it gets dismissed. The Amish nailed untreated cotton muslin fabric across the underside of roof boards and inside gable vent openings. Unbleached, uncoated, plain cotton. The kind that costs almost nothing per yard. Here's what it does. During the night, the muslin absorbs moisture from the naturally cooler, more humid air. During the day, as the attic heats up, that moisture evaporates, and evaporation is a cooling process. Every gram of water that evaporates carries heat away with it. The muslin is essentially a passive evaporative cooling panel that costs just a few dollars and requires zero power. Walk up to your attic right now, after this video do it, and check your gable vents. These are the triangular or rectangular openings at each end of your attic under the roofline. In many homes built in the last 50 years, those vents are painted shut, blocked by insulation, covered with mesh so fine it's functionally solid, or simply never installed correctly to begin with. Your attic cannot breathe. The Amish maintained their gable vents obsessively, cleared, open, and covered with appropriately fine mesh to keep out insects and birds while maintaining airflow. This one is genuinely ingenious and almost completely unknown outside of traditional building communities. Amish homes historically had summer kitchens. These were separate structures or specially positioned rooms where cooking was done during the hot months so that stove heat didn't build up in the main house. But the principle actually extended into how they managed airflow throughout the entire home by using the kitchen stove as a sort of ventilation engine. Here's how it works. The stove generates heat. Heat rises and creates a low pressure zone around it. If you open a window near the stove, just a few inches, cool air rushes in to replace the hot air rising from the cooking surface. Now, if you open a window on the opposite side of the house, a cross draft establishes itself, pulling fresh air in through the kitchen window and pushing stale, warm interior air out through the far window. Here's the part of this conversation that I think matters most. These techniques weren't abandoned because they stopped working. They were abandoned because a culture of dependency was more profitable than a culture of competence. When every home needs central air conditioning, when every home needs a service contract, when homeowners become consumers rather than builders, that is the moment that traditional knowledge stops being passed down. Not because it failed, because it was inconvenient for someone else's business model. The Amish never accepted that trait. They kept building homes that work with physics instead of against it. The link to that guide is in the description. I genuinely recommend it for anyone on this channel who takes self-reliance seriously. Your attic doesn't have to be your enemy. $4 of cotton muslin, an afternoon clearing gable vents, a weekend building a cupola. Understanding how air moves through your home and using it intentionally. These aren't compromises. These are upgrades. They work in a power outage. They work when prices spike. They work when supply chains fail. They work because they're based on physics, and physics doesn't send invoices. Drop in the comments. Which of these techniques are you implementing first? I read everyone, and I genuinely want to know what your home situation looks like. If this video was valuable to you, like it, share it, and subscribe to In the Beginning. There's a lot more where this came from. See you in the next one.